5 books, decades of research, thousands of interviews, and one uncomfortable pattern that keeps repeating. Almost everything you were taught about money was designed to keep you comfortable, not to make you free. You were told to earn more, and you did, and somehow the money still disappeared by the 28th of every month. That is not a discipline problem, and it is not bad luck. It is a design problem. The people who built real wealth did not work harder than you. They followed a small set of rules, and almost none of those rules are intuitive. In the next few minutes, you are going to hear all 12 of them. By the end, you will know exactly which one you have been breaking. Secret 1. Your salary arrives, and within 9 days it is gone. Rent, groceries, a subscription you forgot you were paying for, a dinner you did not plan. 4,000 years ago, a scribe in Babylon watched the same thing happen to everyone around him. His answer was almost insultingly simple. Out of every 10 coins you earn, you keep 1, and you live on the 9 that are left. Not what remains at the end of the month, because nothing ever remains at the end of the month. You take it the moment the money lands, before a single bill is paid. The richest man in Babylon builds its entire framework on this one habit, and every book after it quietly agrees. Here is the part people miss. 10% of a small income still works, because the amount was never the point. The point is that you become a person who takes a cut of your own life before anyone else does. Do it this month, on the day you get paid, and watch how quickly your spending reshapes itself around the 9. But saving is only half the battle, because something is actively working to eat the other 90%. Secret 2. You got the raise you wanted. 6 months later, your bank balance looks exactly the way it did before. That is not a mystery, and you are not uniquely bad with money. What you call your necessary expenses will always expand until they swallow whatever you earn, unless you deliberately stop them. Babylon called this controlling your expenditures, and it drew a hard line between what you need and what you merely want. Your desires are infinite, and your income is not, so some of those desires simply have to go unfulfilled and stay that way. Try this tonight. List every fixed cost you carry, then mark the ones that entered your life within a month of a pay rise. Those are the ones that ate the raise. Cancel one of them before you go to sleep, because controlling money is defense, and defense on its own will never make you rich. Secret 3. Most people cannot answer a very basic question about their own life. What do you own that pays you? Robert Kiyosaki reduced all of personal finance to one distinction in Rich Dad Poor Dad. An asset puts money into your pocket, and a liability takes money out of it. That is the entire test. The car in your driveway takes fuel, insurance, and repairs, and hands you nothing back, so it is a liability wearing an expensive costume. Kiyosaki argues the same is true of the house you live in, which is why so many people who look wealthy are quietly drowning. The poor and the middle class collect liabilities they have been taught to call assets. Take one page tonight, draw 2 columns, and be brutal about which side each thing belongs on. Most people discover the left column is almost empty. Filling it is a completely different discipline. Secret 4. When someone asks what your business is, you name your job. But your job belongs to somebody else, and it can be taken from you in a single meeting. Kiyosaki's phrase for this is to mind your own business, and he does not mean quit. Keep the paycheck and use it to fund something that exists outside of it. A rental, a stake in a company, a product, a channel, a skill you can sell without asking permission. Every unit of money you move into that column becomes an employee who works while you sleep and never asks for a raise. The trap is that a promotion feels like progress, so people chase the income column for 30 years and retire owning nothing that pays them. Choose one asset you could start building this quarter with money you already have, and notice what the wealthy invest in before they invest in anything else. Secret 5. You are offered 2 jobs, and one of them pays 15% more. Almost everyone takes the money, and that is usually the wrong call. Kiyosaki was taught to work, to learn, rather than to work to earn, and to chase skills instead of salary. Selling, negotiating, marketing, investing, writing, speaking, these compound in a way a pay bump never does. Babylon reached the same conclusion thousands of years earlier and made increasing your ability to earn one of its cures, because a sharper skill is simply a wider stream. The only asset nobody can repossess is the one inside your head. So look at the work you did last week and ask what it taught you, and if the honest answer is nothing, that job is costing you more than it pays. Buy one book or one course this month instead of one more object you will stop using by winter. Now the research gets uncomfortable, because it turns out the wealthy do not look the way you have been imagining. Secret 6. Picture the millionaire in your head right now. You are probably seeing a luxury car, a watch, a house behind a gate. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent years interviewing actual millionaires for the Millionaire Next Door, and the person they found was nothing like that. He drives a car that is a few years old, and then keeps driving it. He lives in the same ordinary house he bought decades ago, on a street you would not look at twice. He is not competing with his neighbors because he decided long ago that financial independence matters more than the appearance of success. The people whose lifestyle you are copying are very often the ones living closest to the edge. Stop taking financial cues from anyone whose balance sheet you have never seen. And if you want to know whether you are actually building anything, there is a number for that. Secret 7. Here is a piece of arithmetic that will either reassure you or ruin your evening. Take your age, multiply it by your annual income, then divide the result by 10. That, according to Stanley and Danko, is roughly what your net worth should already be. A 40-year-old earning $60,000 a year should be sitting on around $240,000. Hit double that number, and the book calls you a prodigious accumulator of wealth. Land at half of it or less, and you are an underaccumulator, no matter how impressive your job title sounds at a party. Two people can earn identical salaries and end up on opposite sides of that line, which tells you income was never the variable being tested. Pause and run the number on yourself before you hear the rest. Whatever you got, there is one habit that moves it faster than any other, and it usually arrives disguised as kindness. Secret 8. Your parents help with the down payment, and everyone agrees it was a loving thing to do. Stanley and Danko gave this a clinical name, economic outpatient care. What they found was that adult children who receive ongoing financial support tend to end up with less wealth of their own, not more. The money arrives, the lifestyle rises to meet it, and the muscle that would have built the wealth never develops. Worse, the child grows accustomed to a standard of living their own income cannot support. Gifts feel temporary, but they permanently rearrange how the person receiving them thinks. If you are the one giving, give skills and knowledge long before you give cash. If you are the one receiving, be honest with yourself about which parts of your life are actually yours. Everything so far has been about building the pile, and the next 3 secrets are about not losing it. Secret 9. The fastest way to lose money is to chase the promise of a great deal of it, very quickly. Babylon's 4th cure is to guard your treasures from loss, and it states the first principle of investing plainly: protect the principal. Before you ask what you might gain, ask what you could lose, and whether you could survive losing it. The scene repeats in every generation. A friend or a relative brings you an opportunity, they are excited, everyone else is already in, and the returns sound extraordinary. Enthusiasm is not analysis, and a confident recommendation from someone you like is the most expensive thing in finance. Take money advice only from people who have built money the way you actually want to build it. And when you do invest, there is one rule that saves you on the days you turn out to be wrong. Secret 10. Benjamin Graham built The Intelligent Investor around a single idea, and he called it the margin of safety. You never pay what a thing is worth. You pay meaningfully less. The gap between the price you paid and the value you conservatively estimated is your buffer. It absorbs your mistakes, and you will make mistakes because nobody sees the future clearly. An engineer who builds a bridge to hold exactly the expected load has built a bridge that eventually falls down. Graham drew the same line between investing and speculating. Investing is analysis, a reasonable return, and protected principal, and everything else is hope with a ticker symbol attached. So ask it of any share, any business, any purchase. If I am wrong about this, how badly does it hurt? If the honest answer is that it ruins you, the price was too high, no matter how good the story sounded. Which brings us to the loudest voice you will ever have to learn to ignore. Secret 11. Imagine a business partner who knocks on your door every single morning holding a price. Some days he is euphoric and offers you a fortune for your share of the company. Other days he is despairing and will sell you his share for almost nothing. Graham called him Mr. Market, and the whole point of the story is that his mood is unstable and you are under no obligation to respond. His quote is an offer, never an instruction. Yet most people do precisely the opposite of what the parable teaches, buying while he is thrilled and selling while he is terrified. Kiyosaki noticed the same absurdity from another angle. When a shop cuts its prices, we call it a sale and buy more. And when the market cuts its prices, we call it a crash and run for the door. The market exists to serve you, not to inform you what your assets are worth. Write your rules down while you are calm, because you will not be calm on the day they matter. And once that lands, the final secret quietly rearranges everything you thought this was for. Secret 12. You see someone in a beautiful car, and you feel something. Morgan Housel points out what is actually happening in that moment, and it is brutal. You are not admiring the driver. You are imagining yourself in the seat. Nobody is looking at the owner, which means the car you would buy in order to be respected buys you almost none of it, at an enormous price. This sits at the center of the psychology of money, and Housel's definition of wealth is the hardest one to accept. Wealth is not the things you can see. Wealth is the money you did not spend, sitting quietly as options you have not used yet. The car in the driveway is not wealth, it is the evidence that wealth was converted into something else, which means saving is really just the gap between your ego and your income, and that gap is the one lever you fully control. Housel's larger argument is that doing well with money has far less to do with how smart you are than with how you behave. You can be wrong a great deal of the time and still do extraordinarily well, provided you survive long enough for compounding to finish its work. So the goal was never the highest return. The goal is to become financially unbreakable, so that you are still standing decades from now when it counts. And the reward at the end of all of this is not a house, and it is not a car. It is waking up on a Tuesday and deciding for yourself what happens to the day. The highest form of wealth is control over your own time. That is what all 5 of these books have been circling from the very first page. 12 secrets, 5 books, one uncomfortable thread running through every one of them. None of them require you to be brilliant, and none of them require anybody's permission. They require you to keep a tenth, to refuse the lifestyle your raise offers you, to buy things that pay you, to protect what you build, and to stop performing wealth for an audience that was never watching. The money was never the point. The point was that one day nobody gets to tell you where to be at 9 in the morning. You already know which of these 12 you have been breaking, because one of them stung slightly more than the rest. Tell me which one in the comments, the honest one, not the flattering one. If this was worth your time, leave a like and subscribe, because the next video breaks down the books that teach you how to actually fill that asset column.